what we could do once someone we know is in that situation. Um, really make sure that you're not being judgmental. And I know sometimes as women, like, we can get so comfortable in it that it just seeps out without us realizing. In those situations, like, you have to be as sensitive as possible, because any amount of like whiff of being judgmental, that person is never going to come and open up to you. The other part of that is just be available, even if it's just to listen, even if it's the 100th time they've told you the same thing. If you just stay consistent in being available to that person when they are ready to leave, they know that they can count on you and you're not going to flake out because you were consistent with them. The last thing that I want to say, and Trigger might kind of talked about like the Black community. I think there's this thing that happens a lot when raising children, right? And I don't know that it happens so much now, because I'm not too sure. I'm not around people who raise their children in that way. There's a lot of dismissing of boundaries when it comes to children, and it's taught that it's disrespectful if you assert boundaries. And I think that is an unfortunate way to have children grow up. And I'm not talking about like the super leftist, liberal children raise themselves. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having actual, real, healthy, functional boundaries. That if you're not teaching children how to have those at a young age, they grow up into adults and go into this world not having strong boundaries, not understanding how to reinforce their boundaries, and fall victim to people who will gladly overstep very weak or non-existing boundaries. And I think it's really important that as the younger generation comes up, that we start to learn to respect their boundaries when they're real boundaries, right? And not teach them that their boundaries are meaningless.
Yeah. Dang, I wanted to add something to that and I spaced. It was really having I was listening to you talk, Inaz, I just realized that this is probably why most women will tell their father last. Because once you tell me, you're getting ripped out of that home. And just thinking about it now, I got a daughter. When a man puts his hands on your daughter, especially if you're traditional like me and my family are, you're calling me a bitch, and I ain't no bitch. So I'm gonna come. Yeah, it's me and you now. you know, Unfortunately, I do understand some of the difficulty with that, especially when kids are involved. So, but just hearing you talk about it and saying confide in them, try not to be judgmental, that you tell your father, that's pretty much it.
Discernment and prayer prior to children and marriage, that will save your life. If you're not a religious person, you need to pay attention to whomever you're dating, whether you're a man or a woman. You need to pay attention when you think they're not looking, or when they think you're not looking. You need to pay attention. How do they react in certain situations? Do they get angry quickly? Are they good with money? Are they a provider? Or all of these little things, you need to pay attention. But I would definitely say discernment and prayer prior to children and prior to marriage.
I like that. I think self awareness is a really big thing, right? Whether it's through therapy, through spiritual advisors, whether it's mentors. I think that self awareness is that thing that grounds you, that allows you to keep touch with reality and to really start to see the world um, in a way that isn't so easily influenced by other people. And I think that's the thing that I think touches on all three of the subject matters that we've touched today. In terms of grounding yourself in your values, when it comes to family, in terms of, um, you know, protecting yourself against potential abuse. I don't think there's any way to do it 100%. But I think that that self awareness through tools is really important.
I would say to the earlier, I guess the two topics were kind of about like, women feeling, putting their careers first and stuff like that. I just want to say like there are several different types of I have to be strong. You have to be strong. I would say the first have to be strong is like, I have to be strong because I don't want no man telling me what to do. And I just think that that's a bad narrative. Like, don't force yourself to be strong because you don't want nobody to tell you what to do. Be strong because that's who you want to be, but don't be so strong to where you're running certain things away that you're going to eventually want as you get older. So that's all I wanted to say.
So, when you talk about abuse, it seems like such a one-sided thing. And as we live in the generation now that's where information is so available, it's not one-sided at all. And I'm gonna just talk to the men for a second and let you know that men need to become more astute, more realistic about what emotional abuse actually is for you. In the sense of the things people are suffering from most today, get this through your head. A woman isolating you from your children and alienating you from your children's affection is abuse. It's abuse. Do not take it lightly. Don't do the man thing where you try to write it off because you don't want to complain because you think your homie's going to call you a bitch. It's abuse. You I understand what has traditionally been done, and you feel helpless and there's no way to um, really get the attention of anyone, not even a judge, not a lawyer, or anyone to take this type of case seriously. But any way you can, make documentation of it, because we're going into a time now where it doesn't look like anyone is going to even the score so men can play. Right. So, outside of just simply for your children alone, you need to understand, exactly what's going on so you can at least help them, or make an effort to be in their life. And I feel like more men putting their heads together and putting the word out that you can talk to me. I can tell you what happened to me. I can tell you what I did and how I was able to form a relationship with my kids will be better off for men in general.
I never feel like I could give a good advice. Like, I can give my opinion about things. People will decide to take your advice, or not, or hear it out. Even though I've been in the situation, it's easier to say than done. I agree with everything you guys say. I definitely agree. But once you are in the position, it's so hard. So I think the best thing to do is avoid to get into that situation, and taking accountability again, look at the red flags, and if you don't feel like something is right, don't go in there because it's not right. When it looks like shit or smells like shit, it's probably shit. um that's something I learned along the way. Um and after all I've been through all this, and I can just say that I had to heal. Healing is important. So I think I wouldn't be the person that I am now. I wouldn't have been able to forgive him and do the things that I'm doing. I have a great relationship with him, to the point that he said I get emotional. He says that we are better as friends than we were as partners. I never took his daughter away from him. I never did none of that. So it was never a revenge, not even a piece of that in my heart. And I think that's why he's able to see it now. I'm not trying to change him. I don't think he's going to change. I hope he does, because I wish him well. And that I can only share my experience, but at the end of the day it's more like try to avoid getting into it. And if you don't know if you're being abused verbally, emotionally, I mean, I think everybody knows what physical abuse is, but some people, think it's okay, but some people don't know that this thing starts with the verbal or the emotional part first. So if you don't know what is to be emotional abused or verbally, try to ask information. If you don't want to ask someone, like ask a random person, like, what do you think verbal abuse is? you know that's the only thing I can say, because sometimes we are ashamed to ask people that are close to us. So that's all I can say.
I thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And Trigger, I really do appreciate the side of it that you brought up. Um, like, because I've dated a guy who his baby's mother was just being a complete bitch. I mean, I'm just gonna say what it is, and she was making it really hard for him to see his kid, and she was giving him problems, and like I didn't know how to help because it's like, what can I do? Like the majority of the time, the court is in favor of the woman, and like I don't even know what that feels like mentally. Like I have a hard time going away from my son just for a day or two. You know what I mean? Like I cannot imagine what it would be like if someone was pretty much saying you can't have your kid, you're giving me shit about it, and he's just waiting for a court date just to be able to like plead his. But it's not that way for women. You know what I mean? Like it's always in favor of women. So like, and I can't even imagine what that like that mental state would feel like. So like I feel for you, and I appreciate like you bringing that up as far as the men go.
I don't feel for me, but there's
Not
a lot of
you.
men out.
I
I
mean,
was
I
about to
didn't mean
say.
you, but like feel for the men.
I was about to say that shit.
Why are you
God,
going through
please.
that?
I don't know. I will go scorched earth. I don't want to be on the news,
No, I feel you
But
for the.
no, too many men are going. Listen, I just got to say this because my wife is a high earning woman. Okay, her money comes to my bank account. All right, there are ways to do this to where it's family oriented, service oriented, future and legacy oriented. I don't know why people think, and I say this about married people all the time. People who do this the right way, we don't keep score on where the hell the money comes from. If you have a plan, get it while the getting's good. You see what I'm saying? Like, get it if it's all going to the same plan. Get it while the getting's good. Everybody else in the world is keeping score, and we're out here building literally a entire legacy for our children's children. So focus has a lot to do with that, and I wish people would just focus.
I hate when women who make so much money say, well, I'm going to be the boss of the house or blah, blah, blah. Like my husband makes probably 3 or 4 times that I make. But he always comes to me like, hey, babe, should we do this? What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, like, even though I make diddly squat compared to him, he's still giving me the equal amount of say so in the household. Where some women, they're like, I make more, so I'm gonna do this and then I'm like,
Well,
you're power hungry, ladies.
well, you got to understand how the world got to where it's at, but that's a topic for another day. And so is power safe? That's what we're saying. There are numerous studies that have been done and say if women have power, they will lord it over men. They will start more war, not less war. They'll start more war than men. So that's what men do. I just want people to normalize what's actually going on. We give too much power and too much what do you call airtime to people who the corrupt and the toxic. Literally, that's what most husbands do. Hey, babe, that literally is my partner. It's the reason I married my wife. I need a capable, competent woman to help me with this. So it's not uncommon at all.
I would love
You
for
know
that.
what? You know what? Something that I like to hear for what you both said is that even though the man is asking the woman, like, what do you think about this? It's not that she has the last word, but for us as women, we don't want to have the last word. We're gonna follow, your decision, but at least you made us involved and you consider our opinion, even if you're not going to say what we're saying. It's just making us part, and we love that. We feel like
Mhm.
someone is hearing, and that's what we want. So and a lot of men tend to confuse that part because it's not, no, I don't have to tell you. Well, you don't have to, but you also don't have to not tell me, like you can also hear me out, and then if you don't think it's okay, then just move on and make the
Yeah.
decision.
If people need proof on just how much men defer to their wives to make certain decisions, go ask who decision was it to move into that house. It's the woman. Go ask whose decision was it to send those kids to that private school or that charter school. The woman. Who like women
Furniture,
make all of these decisions.
I'm telling you, if
what food you're eating.
when my eyes get big and I'm like, oh, babe, look at that. He buys it for me. I don't even say, babe, I want it. I'm just like, oh, and he's like, yep. It's my influence is sometimes to his detriment. I'm like, dang, I didn't want him to spend all that money, but just because that made my eyes lit up or I got happy, he bought it for me or he did these things for me. And it's crazy how we think men are just these big bad wolves. They want to be there for us. They want to help us. They want to make us happy too. I just wish more women knew that.
Yep. Sometimes I'm just sharing a meme, sharing something. It's like noted. Like if I want it, and I'm like, no, I'm just sharing.